This is a beautiful space. Let me just say this. It is beautiful.
Beautiful space and beautiful melanated people
right.
all day long. It's been a lot of beautiful people in this space. And so many great conversations and talks. Earlier today, I did a thing on brand, man. The energy that was given to me by the crowd was amazing and super exciting. But we're here to talk about politics, man. And in so many ways, our political process is broken. And you have just gone into the belly of the beast, as I mentioned, running for Senate in Michigan. What was that experience like for you? And what made you throw your, you've done so many things. By the way, he's a Harvard graduate, he's an attorney, all kinds of stuff. But what made you throw your hat into that ring?
Hey, everybody, I truly believe that there are, in this moment, and this will change, but in this moment there are two specific verticals that exist, and unfortunately only two, where we can see and witness scale change and impact at scale, both positive or negative. And one is technology, and the other is politics. Because of the collusion between, and I believe Citizens United in 2010, many people think that the reaction to the Obama presidency was the Tea Party, but I think that's the beard. The true reaction to the Obama presidency was Citizens United in 2010 that allowed unfettered, unlimited dark money to come into our politics, particularly corporate money. And so what we have now is a great deal of collusion, corporate collusion with our government. And so the people have been left out of the process. They sense it, they know it. If you don't have a super PAC, do you have a voice? If you don't have an independent expenditure, do you have a voice? If you don't have those things and you can't write that $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $500,000, $1 million, $5 million, $10 million check, do you have a voice in the process? Obviously, we're seeing that the answer for many folks is no. And for me to run, in many ways, there was an article that they said Hill Harper against the machine. I was running against the machine to see if an individual could attempt to disrupt that process. It's very difficult. And but we all have to lean in the ways we can.
Yeah. What was your biggest learning from your run? And when I say democracy is broken, what needs to be fixed? You talked about super PAC money, right? The influence of corporate America in the system. What needs to be fixed? And what did you learn? What's the biggest learning you had from your run? By the way, love your branding, Holmes.
Yeah. So, so that right there is obviously the A is the state of Michigan. That is the Mackinac Bridge that connects the lower peninsula to the upper peninsula in Michigan. And this man right here designed that logo. So give it up for that logo.
Super.
That's
dope.
why he loves it. That's why he loves it so much.
That's flames.
It didn't help me win, though.
You didn't take the rest of the strategy. I have a strategy for you.
There we
We'll
go.
talk about that later.
But,
Right.
yeah. But it is beautiful. But you see where it says believe in better? This is a great learning. When I launched the campaign, this idea was, I've always felt that belief is so important, and we have to believe in better, that there's a better outcome, or why would you take an action to even vote, etc. What thing I discovered quite quickly is that there's a whole group of folks that don't even believe. So how could you ever believe in better if you don't fundamentally believe? If you have experienced levels of trauma to the point where you've checked completely out of the process, there's nothing to truly believe in. And so part of my work was just to get people to, on a baseline level, believe again. Because remember, they got sold hope and change, and nothing changed. Then they got sold make America great again. America got worse. So why do they say it doesn't matter? I'm going to check out. And they see prices going up and not being able to afford to put gas in their car, not being able to afford to feed their family, not being able to go on a vacation without going to a lifetime of credit card debt. What are you believing in? Who's fighting for you?
That's right. And
why do you believe that you should even vote or participate? And so that's interesting that you launch with believe in better, and you end up at the end. I was talking about we, the people. I was trying to remind people of founding documents. And how do we get back to I'm responsible for you, you're responsible for me. To the extent that you rise or don't rise, then I don't rise. We're in this together. Dr. King said we're all tied together in a single garment of mutual destiny. So your destiny is inextricably linked with mine. And how do we remind ourselves of that? If we don't even believe that we are in this together, then the democracy's done.
That's right. That's right. Man, I love the point that you made there. And I think about, my adopted city of Miami. I'm from New York originally, born and raised, Harlem. Don't start, Curry. But my adopted city of Miami, man, there's so many people who live in under-resourced communities, impoverished communities. It's been under-resourced and impoverished when their great-grandmother lived there, when their grandmother lived there, when their mother lived there, now they live there. So what has changed doesn't matter whether they vote right, left, straight. It doesn't matter. The situation continues to be the same. That's why people get very hopeless, And you said something to me that really impacted me when we started our journey to create this and do some work together and talk about strategy. And you said, this is not just about Michigan. You said to me, I'm running to be one of the 104 people that decide what happens with legislation, with our budget. Can you talk a little bit about that philosophy? Because I thought it was really important.
Sure. So, what I think that many of us don't realize, or just that they're not even teaching civics in school. The U.S. Senate is the most powerful body in all of politics in the entire world. And what do I say that? I say that because those 100 people decide two extremely important things. Number one, they confirm lifetime appointments of federal judges, and we know how that impacts our lives on a daily basis. And number two, but more importantly, there are 100 people in this country, and people don't think about it this way, but 100 people in this country decide the distribution of $7.2 trillion annually. And it's your money. It's our money. 100, think about this.
Is that the biggest budget in the world? Is that the biggest budget in the world?
Biggest budget in the world, by far. By far. And by far the biggest budget per capita. $7.2 trillion is distributed annually. Your money, you're going into debt over it because half of that is money that the government doesn't have. And they're earmarking your money to go to different areas, factions, and 100 people do it. And here's the trick, and this is a holdover obviously from slavery, the trick is in states like North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, they have fewer people than Washington, D.C., and the folks in Washington, D.C. don't even have a representative, but those folks have 2 senators out of that 100 in each state and 1 congressperson. So when we talk about disproportional representation, the U.S. Senate is a poster child for that. And so when an open Senate seat comes up and there's an opportunity to grab that seat, and I would have had an opportunity to distribute over the course of the 6 years well over $1 billion. Well over $1 billion to people and places that I would care about, as opposed to the senator from North Dakota or Joe Manchin from West Virginia. Great example. To pass the debt ceiling recently, they go to Joe Manchin and they say, Senator Manchin, we need your vote. Government's going to shut down. He said, okay, well, I need these 2 paragraphs put in the debt ceiling legislation. The 2 paragraphs apportioned $147 million of your money to 42 coal companies in West Virginia. What do you have to do with coal companies in West Virginia, and why are they getting your money? In a 900-page piece of legislation, 2 paragraphs are inserted that spend your money on something that you have nothing to do, and it all goes back to who you put in those seats. So why did I run? I ran to say, this is our chance to grab this and then let me go and distribute the money. Because the problem is, we talk about the presidency all the time. The president does not decide where the money goes. I mean, they can push a button and blow everything up, but they do not decide where the money goes. The Senate does. House of Representatives doesn't. The Supreme Court doesn't. The president doesn't. The United States Senate spends the money. And that's why when seats come up, no matter where they are, we got to grab them.
Beautiful, beautiful. So appreciate that. Yeah, man, what does this bring up to mind for you, man, when we look at this, man? The history of our people fighting for our rights. You know, I saw the other day a documentary. It had the first woman that desegregated the school in Arkansas, you know, and they asked her how she felt about that. Now, you know, she's in her 60s now, and she said, I didn't want to do none of that. People were spitting at me when I was trying to go to school. People were throwing stuff. The National Guard had to walk me into school. I didn't want to do none of that. I wasn't trying to be a hero. I was trying to go to school. And I never thought about it from the vantage point of that person having that experience. It was a very necessary thing that happened for all of us. But that little girl must have been scared to death.
That's right.
Doing that.
So Ruby Bridges, who's right there in that picture, she's still with us. I've had a fortunate time to speak with her many times. I think about this picture in juxtaposition of where we are today. It is, Brown versus Board of Education was a Supreme Court decision in 1954 that desegregated the schools, that allowed for incidents like this to happen to be federally protected. Yet right now, fast forward to 2024, in my home city of Detroit, we have de facto segregation in schools. In fact, Detroit public schools are more segregated now than they were during Jim Crow. Think about this. St. Louis, Newark, Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincinnati, South Bronx, South LA, the Latino community and segregation in Texas and other places, Southside Chicago. Our schools, our public school systems are bastions of segregation, yet it's de facto, it's not legislated, and it's happened on our watch. So as much as we want to believe things have changed, they have changed in many cases in name only. The same outcome is there and the same result is happening, which means these communities and folks from them are being undereducated. And future stolen from folks. And so I look at these photos quite often and I use them because we have to have benchmarks and we have to do our comparative analyses and say, where are we right now? And why haven't we moved?
That's a fantastic lead into my next question because, people are lobbying and pushing for our vote, right? And they say that, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome.
That's right.
If we've been Democrats and we've, been giving our vote to the Democratic Party, and I'm not arguing against that, but how's that working for us? Obviously, the alternative doesn't look great at all. What are our options, man? What else can we do? Is a third party a real thing? Like, what else can we do? Because doing the same thing we've been doing and getting the outcome we've been getting, it's not working. Your thoughts?
I think that convenings like this are so important because they represent what we should be doing, which is meeting and planning and being much more strategic and intentional about how we create outcomes. And we can do it in any space you want. And that's the point. In other words, we can make markets. We already do. But if we're intentional about making a market, whether it's for art and amplifying artists, or whether it's amplifying public servants and politicians, whether it's owning sports teams or creating our own sport, and then saying, this is where we're going to spend our Sundays. But point is ownership. It goes back to ownership. But it only works if we collaborate and work together and we're collusive about it. And I remember I was at Harvard Law School, great story. This was back when you could argue about with someone ideologically and you still could talk to them afterwards. So there was this kid in my class that he and I saw the world completely differently. I couldn't stand him. And also there's other people that were there when I was there. Neil Gorsuch, who's now Supreme Court Justice, was there at Harvard Law School when I was there. I didn't like him then. I don't like him now. Barack Obama was there when I was there. I liked him then and I like him now.
Who played hoops better, you or him? Who had a better jump shot, you or him?
Oh, come on, man. Didn't you see the movie He Got Game? I played with all pros. Come on. So I'm talking to this dude after class. The guy I disagree with all the time. He says, oh, man, I got to go. I said, where are you going? He says, I'm going into Boston. We're students. I'm like, for what? Oh, I got a meeting. A meeting? With who? Oh, it's this organization called the Heritage. So everyone's talking about Project 2025 today. They've been meeting for years, y'all. This isn't something new. I said, what are you meeting? What is the heritage? He said, we get together and talk about the way we want to see the world. So when's the last time you, me, and Arturo and Joe sat down and we intentionally plotted out the way we want to see the world. In the advertising and marketing space, in athletics, in entertainment, in politics, in entrepreneurship and business, in private equity, in banking, in agricultural. We can actually do that, but we tend not to because we haven't actually been taught the muscle to do that. Most of us haven't. And most of us, particularly in our community, are operating in silos way too much. Too many of us do the same damn thing. And we don't leverage it. So how can we ever scale? If you're doing exactly what I'm doing, you care about exactly what I care about, but you're doing it in this vertical, I'm over here doing it in this vertical. If we did it together, we would work less hard but more smart, and we'd actually get greater outcome. Even backstage, we were just talking about the crabs in the barrel mentality.
Yeah.
And so we have to develop the simple muscle of learning to get together, plan, and execute. Get together, plan, and execute. Collaborate. Invite people in. Everyone's welcome. Get together. I want to see you rise. What do I need to do to make that happen? What do you care about? Those are the questions. I call it developing your own personal board of directors. And they need to be asking you questions every day. What kind of world do you want to live in? What do you want to see out of your life? How can I help you get there? Those are 3 simple questions that if you tell me the answer and I can help execute. Am I introducing you to 5 new people every week? Are you setting up multiple meetings for both of us to do this, to leverage capital, gain access to relationships? All of that, it has to be intentional, but it has to happen in community.
And so many people are good at doing that outside of our community. They do this all the time. I sit with people.
And they do it informally all
the time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I sit with this guy. I won't get into names, but I sit with this guy, billionaire in Miami. And I have meetings with him like maybe, it used to be once a month, maybe once a quarter now. And I spend an hour with him. And out of the hour, 45 minutes, he spends fielding phone calls while he's dealing with me, which you would think is mad disrespectful. But I'm learning in the process. He's literally like, all right, Arturo, so what's going on, man? What's going on with you? Hold on a second. Hello? Oh, no, well, tell him to call Bobby. Yeah, tell him that's my guy. Yeah, hook it up. Okay, click. All right, what was you saying, man? 5 minutes. He does this the entire time. He's literally hooking people up with other people in his network for things that they need consistently. This is his ethos. This is how he operates. Yo, man, how many of us operate this way? I'm going to spend time connecting other people to what they need, their resources. Yo, man, there's a meme that I've posted a number of times on social, which is, yo, man, you can't compete with me because I want you to win. You can't compete with me. I want you to win. I got mine. I want you to win. How can I help you win? That's what we're here for. That's what Joe did this for. That's why we're sitting on the stage right now.
That's exactly right.
We need to collaborate, man. We need to collaborate as one community. Otherwise, we'll perish. The crabs in a barrel? Who said we was in a barrel? Who made that up?
That's right.
It's crazy. So incredible point, man. I really appreciate that. Yeah, man, this image right here,
That's right.
The power of one person changing things. Talk about that.
This is about, I use this image all the time for myself to remind me about courage. And many people think that courage is the antithesis of fear, but what courage truly is actually, if you speak French or if you know the etymology of the root of the word courage, it's cœur, which means heart. And sometimes you have to get out there on your own. No one's going to be out there with you sometimes, and you have to do the most courageous thing on your own, and that's what that is. And then when I see that image, it just reminds me, what does it take? The group's not with you. You're out there on your own, standing in front of the machine. So when I ran against the machine, I would think about this brother here in China running literally against the machine, willing to die to stop the tanks from progressing. What are you willing to die for? What are you willing to risk? What are you willing to get into your heart? And your head doesn't get you there. That's why courage is such an important word. Your heart has to get you there. And so often we get away from our heart. We let other people project their fear. Fear for me stands for false evidence appearing real. We let other people project their fears onto us. We accept it, and we end up living smaller lives than we were meant to live. We have to understand our own core, our own individual journey, and then make that really risk-based choice to go and do it. Everybody told me that I was going to get destroyed in the election. But what does that even mean? What does it mean? So I stepped out on my own. out there with a brand that said Hill Harper with the Mackinac Bridge and the thing that he developed. It was very good.
That fly logo.
But so sometimes that has to be it, but that's not all it, right? But sometimes you have to challenge that risk factor. And many times, and Joe and I talked about this really briefly, many times in our community, we have been taught to be risk averse because it used to mean you would automatically lose your life. And that generationally has made us keep our head low, talk a little lower in meetings, eat shit in meetings that we otherwise normally would not eat, swallow and smile. I'm reminded of a picture of my mother. She was a professor at UCSF, and when she got hired, she was the only woman and the only person of color. So there's this picture of her in the middle, a black face surrounded by all white men. How many macro and microaggressions did she have to go through? But then we just did a celebration. There's all these other black female anesthesiologists that have come through that program because she trailblazed it. And if she had stayed at Howard, stayed comfortable, it would have been, that's okay. But she stepped out like that and said, I'm going to go to the University of California, San Francisco, one of the top medical schools in the country, and be the first. And sometimes you have to step out on your own.
Yeah. Yo, man, I'm reminded of, I tell people all the time, people that I mentor and stuff, I'm like, when people tell you you can't do something, they're not talking about you. They've made an assessment of what they're willing to do,
so right.
What they're willing to sacrifice, what work they're willing to put in to do something, and they've agreed they can't do it. So they're projecting that upon you.
That's right.
It's not about you, right? And so many times we're told, and oftentimes the people closest to us, oh, you can't do that. That's crazy, man. Why are you trying to do that? That don't make no sense. There's a meme that says, you may think that something's not possible, but don't be surprised if somebody goes ahead and does it anyway, because they have many reasons why it is possible, right?
I know about 17 brothers that thought of Uber.
How about that?
Because we were Uber. We already were. We already were doing it. We just didn't systematize it.
That's right. That's right. Hill, let's talk about this, man. Black Lives Matter, Black Votes Matter, Black Voices, Black Futures. What would you say to young people today who believe this is no longer true, who believe it doesn't matter what they vote?
I go back to manifest. There's so many. See, I attempt to do what I try to encourage other folks to do. That's why I ran for office, right? I can't tell a young person, you got to run. And they look at me, well, you didn't run. So why are you telling me that? I need more young people to run for office. I was talking to a young 19-year-old brother. I said, man, the mayorship of Detroit's coming up next year. Run for mayor. I'm only 19. Yes, run for mayor. Run for mayor. I also, in Michigan, the trustee boards of the major universities that have, I'm talking about hundreds of millions of dollars of control. I still don't understand. They're all elected positions. I still don't understand why the students don't take those over. And I've been talking to them about it at the University of Michigan, Michigan State. They literally could run for these seats, and the students could own the trustee board and decide how the money's spent. But they don't. Somehow they're convinced not to do it. So we need you. If you even have, and I'm talking about anybody in this audience, if you even have an intuition to run for dog catcher, PTA, school board, library,
homeowners association.
If you've had even an intuition to do it, run, because that means you've been told to do it from the Most High. So it's there for a reason. Please run for office because we need you. We can't allow and continue to allow the people who truly don't have our best interest in mind to be the ones that are so-called asking for our votes.
Hill, I met a young Brazilian brother. I used to work for a Brazilian company. I met this young black Brazilian brother, and he said to me, when I was growing up, people said that college wasn't for you. Like, that's not for you. Go take a trade, whatever. College is not for you. He said it was only till I was in my late 20s, early 30s that I realized, people like me could go to college. And he went to college, and I was like, man, he's got a degree, and he ended up working for this Brazilian neobank, whatever. And I was like, man, that's a great story. He's like, no, that's not the great part of the story. I said, what's the great part of the story? He said, yo, man, after I graduated from college, my parents went to college because they realized it was for us. And my father's an engineer, and my mother's a scientist because they realized it is for us. We could do this too. We got to stop letting imaginary barriers keep us from doing what we need to do, right?
That's right. That's absolutely right.
Speaking of which, though, I'm going to change the tune a little bit. I'm going to go to this, man. I saw this the other day, man. It really made a huge impact. I'm going to give you guys a minute to read that. Made a crazy impact on me, man. We're living in this post-fact society, right? And I will sit here and I watch television. I watch people tell blatant lies. Not anyone specifically, just random people telling blatant ass lies. And I'm like, yo, why would somebody say something like that is so incredible for someone to say? How can he think that anyone will believe what he said? And then when I saw that thing that I just showed you, it's not about you believing what he said. It's just planting a little seed of doubt. Why would someone who's an elected official say he had the greatest economy in the history of the world if it wasn't true? Something about that's got to be true, no? We live in a post-fact society, and people are clueless about what to believe. And when people don't know what to believe, they just put their hands up. Man, I don't know. Listen, you know how many people have talked about things this man has said that were blatantly not true? And I deliver facts to people because I'm stupid like that. I deliver facts to these people, graphs, information, statistics, whatever. You know what they'll say invariably? Well, I don't know about all that, but. No, but I just told you about all that. I literally gave you the facts about that specific subject. I don't know about all that. That's people throwing their hands up. I hear you, but I heard something different. I don't know about all that. And by the way, I'm going to get on a soapbox for a split second if you'll allow me. Man, it happens on a sphere, on different spheres every day. Y'all read the article that said that an egg was worse than smoking a cigarette? Remember that one, like 5 years ago? Now mouthwash is not good for you anymore. You heard that one? Yeah, they have new science says mouthwash. But Listerine been telling me for 50 years that it kills the germs that cause bad breath and kills plaque and tartar. It's not good for you anymore? Nope. I don't know what to believe. I just saw one the other day. You're going to think I'm going on a tangent. I am. Stay with me. Paper straws have more forever chemicals than plastic straws. What does the average person say when they read that? Man, I don't know. Just give me a straw. I thought I was saving the world with the paper straws. I'm not. I don't know. Yo, we live in a post-fact society. How do we deal with that? When you sit up there and you say, hey, listen, I'm a Harvard-educated lawyer, and Donald Trump says, well, I went to Wharton and he didn't. And people believe he went to Wharton, he didn't. He went to the University of Pennsylvania. He did not go to the Wharton School of Business. How do we cope in a post-fact world with this information? I know it's a loaded question.
I like to bring things back to the basics. And when I'm reminded, Michigan is they say divided state, right? It's a battleground state. And certainly when I was on my campaign trail, I got called baby killer. I'd show up, there'd be Confederate flags in different places, all that. But we're fed this idea that we are so divided, as if that's a narrative and as if it's true, but it's a lie. My experience is that we are not divided, we are disconnected. And fundamentally, because I was talking to this guy outside of Midland, Michigan one day on, the campaign. And he's a Trumper, and he's man, I kind of like you. And I said, yeah, okay. So, what do you want? He said, what do you mean, what do I want? I said, just fundamentally break down what do you want out of your life, your government? What do you want? He said, well, I want a safe quality education for my kids. I want to have affordable job. I want health care. I want what I mentioned earlier. I want to be able to take a vacation without going into lifelong credit card debt. I want to, have a car and be able to get around. And you ask a single mom on the east side of Detroit, what do you want? I want a safe place for my kids to go to school, quality education. I want affordable housing. I want to be able to get around. I want to be able to go on a vacation every once in a while. Fundamentally, all of us want the exact same thing, yet we are told that we are so divided. It's not true. And that, to me, is how you start to break out of these individual microscopic lies is attempting. That's why people say, I don't know, because it's just too much detail. Just go to the fundamentals. Our education system is broken. 90% of the kids in Detroit public schools are 3 to 4 grades behind in reading and writing. In Flint, in Pontiac, same deal. So my man who's out in the rural area, his kids aren't getting educated. The sister on the east side of Detroit, her kids aren't getting educated. If you can't afford private school, your kids aren't getting educated. That's it. So we can break through all the bullshit and be very clear. And then what do we have to do to fix our public education system?
Is it broken, or is it that way by design?
Well, it's systemically by design the way it is, without question. I mean, there is no money in educating the masses.
Now we talk.
That's systemic. But the only way you start to change things systemically is to get in and start having people who are willing to change it.
Break the system.
Break the system. And then they'll throw around words like they'll say, oh, Hill Harper's a socialist, right? Because I want to see over $90 billion rein in systemically to our public education system. $90 billion would build new schools across the country. $90 billion would raise teachers' wages. $90 billion. And what did we do over this past summer in a weekend? We voted to send $90 billion to fund overseas violence and murder. So the money's there.
We spend 57.
It's how you decide to apportion it.
We spend 57% of our discretionary income, or discretionary budget, on military. 57%. For an arms race, we're supposed to be having an arms race with Russia and with China. Really? I think the Russians have been fighting in Ukraine how long? Right? What if we took 5 years off, took that 57 down to 10%? For 5 years, what can we do in education, technology, and social services?
The kids in Detroit public schools don't have a super PAC. But Boeing, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, Halliburton, we can go on and on. They all have lobbyists. I mean, I'm talking about hundreds of lobbyists, super PACs, and they get people elected. And if that's it. Yeah. And therefore, you're going to see, the National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA, basically gets rubber stamped, increased anywhere from 1 to 3 to 5% every year. And you're talking about a trillion, 3% on $1 trillion is a big number. That money's just going right back to the defense contractor, right? It's not going to the troops. And they try to say, if you want it, so for me, I'm out there talking about we're actually gonna reduce the NDAA, not rubber stamp and increase. They say, oh, so he's anti-troop. No, because that money doesn't even go to the troops. I want to see the troops get raises. We could lower the NDAA and give the troops raises, because most of them are people of color anyway from the enlisted perspective, which is another thing they don't talk about, right? They make you think that the patriot-waving armed service person doesn't look like people in this room. Most of the enlisted look exactly like us. And so follow the money. That's what my grandma always used to say.
Follow the money.
Follow the money. And it's there. The budgets are there. I mean, it's public. This is all public information, right? And it's not getting spent on you, but it's your money. What sense does that make? And why do we keep electing the same people to office expecting a different result?
Super facts. Yeah, man, let's hope to close on a more hopeful note.
Yes.
This particular image here, one man making a difference, one man with a vision. And by the way, he didn't have a plan, he had a dream. Talk about that image.
Yeah, so I believe that democracy is an ever-evolving thing. And it's either improving upon itself in a degenerative way, or it's getting worse in a degenerative way, or it's improving upon itself in a regenerative. And we've had places and times in our history where we've seen regenerative democracy at work. So, ending slavery, the civil rights movement. But we also see many cases where it goes in the reverse, and we have been in a reverse mode right now. What is it going to take to get it back to a generative cycle where it's improving for more people, not actually closing in on itself? And so we have a truly regenerative democracy, one that is moving, because it's not going to stay static. It doesn't. It's either going to get worse or it's going to get better. And that's the question we have to ask, and that's how we have to push things forward.
No, I love that. And I think about, this guy who meant so much to so many people and had a dream. And it's just one person, or the Tiananmen Square picture. Or this picture you sent me, which I'd never seen before.
You'd never seen that?
Nah, which is.
So this is a fascinating picture.
Right.
August Lanserman, he was dating a Jewish woman. And he's in this crowd where they're saluting Hitler, and he refuses to do it because he knows it's wrong. And so when you're in a crowd and they want to go one way, but fundamentally it's not the right thing, finding the courage to not follow, it's hard, man. It's hard. How do you keep your hands down when everybody is going that direction? How do you do that? And so that's another picture I often reference, because I often feel like that's me. I often feel like I'm that guy with his hands down, and everyone's going this way, and I'm going to refuse to do that. And there's going to be some pain involved. Sometimes it's financial. Sometimes it's relationship. Listen, I was the first U.S. Senate candidate called for ceasefire. One of my best friends in the world now refuses to speak to me. He was one of my best friends. And he said that what I did was anti-Semitic. And I said, it's not anti-Semitic. I love my Jewish brothers and sisters, but I do not condone the killing of innocent civilians, no matter where it is. But he's decided we can't have a relationship. But sometimes you have to be willing to stand in the breach when you know it's the right thing to do. And it's not easy. But we just have to remind each other of that and do it.
Well, listen, Brother Hill, this has been a pleasure and an honor. I would love to open it up for questions, right? If people have questions. But before I do that, it's really been an honor to have you here, man. I've known you for a period of time now. And, I think I could probably say this for everybody in this room. We have a lot of things that we can do, a lot of things that we don't have to do. Hill Harper doesn't have to do what he's doing right now. You don't have to face the machine the way you face the machine. You don't have to go through that arduous process that you went through. I'm glad there's people like you of conviction who want to see a better America, who want it to be better for our people, who stand on the line every day, despite the fact that you don't have to. I really honor that, and I salute that, man. And I appreciate you tremendously. So thank you so much, and thank you for taking the time. And thank Blackweek for having us both here. Thank you so much. Amazing. So I'd love to open it to questions. There's not a roving mic. I'm going to give my mic up so Hill can talk. Rita, can you do me a favor and just pass this to folks with questions?
No, you may have a question for Arturo. Don't ask a question for either of us, not just me.
Okay, I'll go with both, because that's what you've been doing this whole time, and it's been truly magical. Thank you so much. Tell us about a time when it was regenerative. What comes to mind specifically?
Well, a couple things come to mind. Now that we're in this moment heading to November 5th, I remember getting a call from then Senator Obama saying, Hill, I need you to go to Iowa with this prosecutor named Kamala Harris. And I need you two to go down there and crisscross Iowa, because if we can't win this Iowa caucus, we can't win the primary. We're 30, 40 points down. We're raising all this money, but we're still, we're fighting, and we have to win the caucus. So for a number of weeks, she and I would crisscross Iowa and just try to help win this Iowa caucus. We won that. And it started, in my opinion, a time, 2008, you saw people coming out, you saw hope being created, you saw people doing things, and we talk about branding and marketing. Shepard Fairey, who I've been collecting for a minute, comes to me, hands me a poster, says, I think they like this, you should get it to Barack. I look at the poster, I thought it was great. I give it to Reggie Love, who's Barack's, right-hand man. They look at it. I get a call the next day, They say, hey, man, can you connect us with that artist who did this poster? And do you think he would change the bottom? Because the poster Shepard Fairey gave me, it said progress at the bottom. He said, we're not selling progress, we're selling hope. Will he change the bottom of the poster? I said, man, he did it for you guys. I mean, of course, I don't know, but he'll probably change it. Here's his number. So they called Shepard, asked him to change the poster at the bottom from progress to hope, and the rest is history. Now it's an iconic poster in the history or lexicon of politics. But people were leaning in that way. He created that thing just because, not because he got hired to, because he hired the best agency like Joe's agency. The dude just did it as an artist and said, hey, I want to help here. So that's when you know I believe you're in a very generative mode and you're actually, building something. Now, where we fell off is that we thought that the win was the Tuesday. We thought that if he becomes president, then that's it, not realizing the power is the people.
Sorry, guys, we're out of time. Sorry, guys, we're out of time, so we got to shut this down. But Hill and I will be around later on this evening. Love to catch up with you guys. Thank you for your time and attention, Blackweek. Appreciate y'all. Thank you, and have a wonderful night.